Looking to improve your life, brush up on your personal growth techniques? You are in the right place. Welcome to Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap.
Lessons. Today I have a special guest. This is one of the people that I've actually met at our mastermind here in Las Vegas, and he does come every once in a while to our mastermind, even though he actually lives in North Dakota. So we'll find out a little bit more about how come he travels so much, or does he have like a second home here? Because I do see him every once in a while here. And after meeting this gentleman at a mixer a couple of months ago, or a couple of weeks ago, I just wanted to actually have him on our show because he actually has a talk show in North Dakota. He is known as the Guru of Geek and is actually the creator of National Day Calendar. He has some other exciting businesses that are just getting started, and we'll probably cover some of that as well. So what I would like to do is introduce Marlo Anderson to the show. Marlo, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be on with you, Kevin.
Well, and we met at the mastermind a few times. You've been to it a few times over the last few months. Now, do you come to Vegas a lot, or?
You know, I have a few people that I do some business with in Vegas, so absolutely, I do wander in actually more often than I care to admit. So,
so your claim to fame is National Calendar Day, or is that just one of the things that you're known for?
Well, National Day Calendar.
Oh, National Day Calendar.
Yeah, that's okay. Happens all the time, actually. So that's probably the biggest thing that most people know me for. But of course, the talk show has given me a little notoriety as well. Probably the coverage like at CES. So I'm one of the journalists that cover that. So a lot of people will know me as that. So I kind of have two diverging careers, you could say. I'm known for the calendar and kind of as the Guru of Geek, as a lot of people call me. So.
Well, so let's talk about both of those. National Day Calendar, exactly what is that for the people that have never heard of it?
Well, we're probably the most popular brand in the world that nobody knows about. So, but you've heard of the things that we do. So National Pizza Day, National Coffee Day, Bobblehead Day. That is what we do. We've actually aggregated all that information that has started back in the 1700s. All the way to today. We put it into a website. We researched and those days all the time. In fact, we're always being corrected as we find new research. National Cookie Day is a great example. We just not to diverge from the main question here, but it was actually, let's see, December 4th is the new day for National Cookie Day. It was November 26th, but we just uncovered some research here just in the last couple months that took it back to before Sesame Street started to celebrate it with the Cookie Monster, believe it or not. So we're always finding, we're always correcting ourselves as this process goes along. But we are the number one trending topic of all time. So and you kind of have to put that into perspective. We have days that actually have over 1 billion in reach. So it's significant what's gone on with National Day Calendar and the impact that it has on business across the country and around the world.
How long have you been running this event or this calendar thing?
Yeah, and that's probably what's going to shock most people here. We're just coming up on our 5th anniversary. So January 19th will be our 5-year anniversary.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. January 19th.
Yes.
And what got you started doing something like this? I mean, were you fulfilling a need? Was this a bet between people drinking beer? I mean, well, how did this start?
Maybe a little bit of everything there, right? I love that. So, I'm kind of a popcorn nut. So I knew that National Popcorn Day was coming up, and I started looking online because I was curious as to how this day got started, and couldn't find any information about it. So I thought, it'd be kind of fun to maybe just start researching some of these days in my spare time between 2 and 4 in the morning and get that going. So that's kind of what I did. And then it kind of caught on. A lot of media started to follow the calendar. And, 6 months into it, we realized that maybe this is going to be a much larger deal than what it is. And it just kind of blew up from there. So it's basically, it's not that we really invented something new with National Day Calendar. It's just that we took information that was not aggregated and put it into a place that people could read about it. And then we've researched those topics moving forward. So, and the media picks up on that because we tell that story. So they understand where, you know, National Pizza Day came from and where Coffee Day came from. So the next day, you know, so we put that post out at 8 o'clock every evening Central Time, and the morning talk shows or whatever, it's almost their prep for the next day. And so the talk shows across the country the next morning, I'm sure you've heard this many times, driving into to work or wherever you're going in the morning, you'll hear that it's National Coffee Day today, and they're pulling that information from our website.
Okay. So, and how quick did it catch on your website from, you know, because you've only been doing this for right about 5 years.
5 years, yeah. So it's interesting, you know, in the first month, I was shocked to see that we had 1,000 visits. And I'm like, you know, I actually have websites that, because this is what I've done for many years, is build websites for the companies and other people. And I mean, there are websites that I've built for people that don't have 1,000 people visit them the entire year, much less the first month. So I was really surprised by that when the website went past 100,000 people in July of 2013. I have to think of my math here now. That's right, 2013. So that just, like, I was astounded by the fact that we had 100,000 people. Now, if we don't do 100,000 people in a day, I think something's wrong with the website. So that's how much it has grown. We haven't hit 1 million people in a day yet. We're just at the verge of doing that. But I expect in the next month or two that we'll surpass that milestone.
So for those of the people that are actually interested, is the website nationaldaycalendar.com?
That's correct, nationaldaycalendar.com. Yeah.
Okay. And when you were getting started, how many did you have? I mean, when you first launched the site, did you have like 50, 100, or how many?
So as far as days go, you mean?
Yes.
So it was a research by the day. So, I mean, the first day that it launched, it was on National Popcorn Day. There was nothing beyond that. So every day it was you talk about being under fire every day, right? So it was always a task of making sure that we were researching and putting that stuff together and getting that post out by 8 o'clock at night. Right away, it wasn't as important that 8 o'clock in the evening post. But as the media grew, you know, started to follow us, it became more and more important for us to have that post out, you know, at that time. So yeah, I mean, basically the first 2.5 years of National Day Calendar was all research, and it was on the fly the whole time. We've only been a business just over 2 years now, and it was just a hobby, so to speak, right away. And so I have this great story for me to share it about.
Sure.
that kind of that light bulb moment, right? So about 3 years ago, I'm also, as you know, involved in technology, and I'm very involved in autonomous vehicles. Probably one of the few people in the world. I don't know if anybody's rode in more different autonomous vehicles than myself. I've been in 27 different ones now. So I get a chance to, and it's because I work on a project called the Automated Vehicle Collaborative. And between that and the radio talk show, which is about technology, I get invited to ride in all these different vehicles now. So it's kind of a cool deal. So I was touting at a conference about how we should make Highway 83 an autonomous friendly corridor. And I know this sounds like I'm getting off the topic here, but it really does. It's really relevant to National Day Calendar. So anyway, at this conference, I had suggested this, and there's a reporter in the room that wrote about this. And Highway 83 is this over 2,000 mile long contiguous highway right through the middle of the country, running north and south. So think of it from Canada to Mexico, and that's why I thought this would be a great place to start testing autonomous vehicles. So anyway, she writes about this, gets picked up by the AP, and I'm on the front page of every paper in the country in the next couple of days, talking about this automated highway, this robotic highway, whatever, which really wasn't the case, but that's what the story was. So I got deluged by calls from TV and radio stations, right? So Fox News calls me and asks to see if I can do a quick little segment on Fox News about well, they just asked if they could do an interview. So anyway, I said absolutely. Again, it just bombarded with requests about the autonomous friendly corridor. And they started asking me about how I came up with this idea, and I started talking about how the country was founded east to west, and our roads basically run east to west in this country, and our rail runs east to west. And really through the middle of the country, it's more evident than even on the coast. I mean, it's really difficult to go north and south where I live here in North Dakota. And after I'm going on like this for like 2 minutes, she stops me and she goes, "What does this have to do with National Puppy Day?" And and again,
Okay.
I am on live television, on national television, and I just like, whoa, wait a second here. So I grab, I pretend I could put a different hat on and start talking about that. But it was one of those light bulb moments, like, what have I created with National Day calendars? So at that point, I had decided that, is this going to be a hobby or is this going to be a business? Because if it's a hobby, it's way too disruptive in my day. We're getting tons and tons of phone calls at work from media all the time, and thousands of emails every week, and we have to answer this stuff. So it's becoming very disruptive at work. So, well, most businesses would love to have millions of followers, right? So we already had that head start, and we just decided that, hey, let's just make this a business. So, and that's what we've done.
So you have monetized it. You do make money off of this, and
We do. In fact, because of the following that we have, it's actually been a little easier. I won't say the start of it was easy, but it's been easier because we have that following to monetize some things, like a printed calendar and that type of thing. So.
Okay. Oh, so you have a printed calendar as well. So a desktop calendar.
We do. Actually, not a desktop yet. We have a wall calendar. The desktop will be coming out next year. One of the things that we've been blessed with, I guess you could say, is that we've formed a partnership with a company called C3 Entertainment, which was founded by the Three Stooges. They're an ad agency, or licensing agency, excuse me, and we partnered with them about a year ago, and they handle our licensing now. So we have we printed a calendar. This will be the third year here. And the first 2 years we did it in-house. This year now it's on national distribution. So if you were to go to any mall or whatever in the country, you would find our National Day calendar now. And then next year they're bringing out a desktop version as well as a day-by-day calendar as well. And we're also licensing for lottery tickets, for a cookbook. And we're actually in the middle of a motion picture deal, as a matter of fact. So we have all kinds of crazy stuff going on around National Day calendar.
Well, what kind of motion picture deals do you have going on?
Well, it's going to be, it's actually a comedy. We're hoping, the working title is National Daze, DAZE. And, hopefully we start filming sometime in 2018. And I'm not sure what the release date will be yet. There's still some things that have to be worked out, but that's we're working forward with that right now. So.
Okay, well, cool. Well, congratulations with you all that.
Thank you.
Because I think a lot of people, even myself with this podcast, and I will talk to you about your talk show here in a few moments. When you're getting started, you may not always know where you're going, where it's going to be, and it could take you down a completely different road. As long as you stick to it and be consistent with it. So.
That's a very good point, actually, because I'm a tech guy, and I'd have never dreamed in a million years that we would have a printed calendar. And I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say this. We must have been asked like 10,000 times, when are you going to print a calendar? And I'm like, why do you need a printed calendar? You can go right to our website and get the information. And, the next email, when are you printing a calendar? So I said, fine. And I hop on to a crowdfunding platform, Indiegogo. I'm sure you're familiar with Indiegogo. And I hop in there and I took like an hour to set up an Indiegogo campaign. I took a 13 by 19 piece of paper. We had a larger printer here. And I basically printed a one-page with a photo on top with the month of January on the bottom, and filled in the dates of, like National Bobblehead Day and whatever on that one thing. So that took like a half hour to do. And took a photo of me holding this thing up. And I put $20 on this. I said, if you guys want a printed calendar, I want $20 a piece for these darn things, right? And we sold 2,000 of them. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So then I just basically said to my staff, I guess we're in the printed calendar business now. But you're right about that, right? You need to listen to the people who are you're either going to be your customers or who are your customers. There's something about going in that direction. And if you don't listen, you're probably missing out on a lot of sales.
Okay, and that's so cool that this is all going for you, because you just started off just doing it, and you were saying for 2.5 years you were putting yourself on the wire, like, okay, tomorrow is, I'm just going to make up a date. Tomorrow's May 26th. Okay, what can I come up with for May 26th? Today's the 25th, so. And it sounded like that's what you were doing. So by 8 o'clock, I have to know what day is May 26th, and on the 26th, you're doing it for the 27th,
Right.
and it just keeps doing that for
Yep.
all 365 days.
Yep.
And I'm going to assume, and I don't know if this is true or not, but things like big holidays like Christmas or 4th of July, Independence Day, let's call it that. You had to come up with, well, July 4th is Independence Day, but it's also got to be something else. So I can't do that as a gift. I mean, as a freebie. I mean, I'm sure you still have researched those big national holidays.
Oh, absolutely. And there are, like for Christmas, for example, it's also, or Christmas Eve is National Eggnog Day. So, and that's been around for 100 and some years already. So so some of all those traditional holidays have something else with them. They're usually tied to the holiday somehow or another. Like I said, eggnog and Christmas Eve kind of go hand in hand with each other. So you'll find that, but yeah, every day in the calendar has some national day affiliated with it.
Okay, and that's because I was wondered about that, because when my friend Michael still lived here in Las Vegas, and I wanted to find out, and I did a little bit of research. This is like, we need to have at least one day a month to go out and celebrate a national holiday that has to have drinking involved.
You know what? I bet it's possible to do that every month. We do have a lot of drinking holidays. Yeah.
But like 4th of July is a drinking holiday. Cinco de Mayo is a drinking holiday.
Sure, absolutely.
What is it? St. Patrick's Day is a drinking holiday. So
yep,
I mean,
yep. You got three of them there. There's and then you throw in the beer days. There's National Beer Day. There's National Craft Beer Day. There's National Vodka Day. There's like 3 or 4 different National Wine Days. There's National Whiskey Day. January has Bootleggers Day in it. So you could. Every month you could figure one out. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
So let's go down to what else that you're known for. You're also known as the Guru of Geek. Could you tell me a little bit about that? Where did that come up, and how does that play a role in your life right now?
So this is coming up on 6 years ago now, coming up on the 6th anniversary of the radio talk show called The Tech Ranch. Okay. And I don't know, we just, I've been in technology pretty much all my life. And, we also have a computer shop here, and a company called Zuvio, which is a technology based. It's like Netflix for your personal videos is the best way to describe that. So if you got videotape, we digitize it, put it in your private vault, and it streams out to your television just like Netflix does. So so we have some of those things. So as I was getting going with the radio show, somebody had, I think the show producer at one time had stated something about, hey, you're like the Guru of Geek, and then it kind of just stuck. And so it's been used as promotions for the radio show, and then of course I do a lot of stuff for a local or regional television station, which is a CBS affiliate, and then some of those pieces that I do for that end up on national news as well. So the moniker kind of has stuck, and it's kind of I'm guessing kind of played a role in my popularity, I guess you could say, being used for interviews and that type of thing when it comes to technology. So,
and did you already have your talk show going at that time, or was this after?
So it's pretty close to the same time. I'm thinking the show was on probably 3 or 4 weeks already when that moniker was attached to me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your radio show then. What's the name of your show, and what is the topics that you usually cover?
Yeah, so it's called The Tech Ranch, and it's basically technology for everyday life, or as I like to say, living with technology. And that's basically, I share a lot of the experiences I've had with using technology, and as an early adapter to a lot of things. For example, being so versed in autonomous vehicles, I can explain to people basically what's going to happen in a couple, 3 or 4 years. They have a little fear about, giving up control to a car, which a lot of people do, myself included, right away. Maybe I can, have them relax about that a little bit, and understand that this technology is for the betterment of mankind, and not so much about, another new thing that General Motors and Ford and Google are going to make a ton of money off of, which I'm sure they will anyway. But quite frankly, picking on autonomous vehicles, I'm really tired of my friends and family dying on the roads that we have in this country, and that's why I advocate for this technology so much. But there's, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff out there when it comes to technology, and I like to just, you know, explain to people that things are going to get better, and yes, some people should be fearful and should be cautious about technology, but we really talk about the betterment of mankind. We really do. And I really do feel that way. I think that as we move forward, the ability to 3D print organs and bones and is an amazing thing. The quantum computers that are going to be coming out will be, you know, a million times faster than the computers we have now. And that's only 3 years from now. I mean, it's amazing how this technology, the speed at what a quantum computer will be able to compute things means that we dive way deep into DNA, and we're going to be able to fix things like muscular dystrophy and Alzheimer's, and because we're going to understand the genetic code to all of this stuff and be able to figure out ways to fix it. So I'm very excited for all of this stuff, and I hope that the Tech Ranch kind of explains that to people, and of course we have a lot of guests on that kind of, you know, in those different areas. So I'll have a scientist on about DNA, and then the next week we'll be talking about some engineer with autonomous vehicles, and then we'll talk to somebody about in the energy sector about how we'll be moving away from oil to other alternate fuels and that type of thing. So.
Now, are these live in your studio? Because you were just telling me you're in a new studio right now, or is this like our show, which is online?
So, so the show's done at a Town Square radio station, Super Talk 1270, located in Mandan, North Dakota. So the studio that I'm in right now is actually something that we have in our office, so we can start doing shows just like what we're doing here. We get a lot of requests for interviews and that type of thing, so we figured we better, you know, step that up a little bit. Plus we're gonna get in. We're gonna be your competitor pretty soon, because we're gonna be launching into a series of podcasts as well. So,
well, there's quite a few podcasts out there. I don't really see as competition.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just giving you a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I figured. Okay, so you got your talk show. How long has the talk show been running for?
It'll be coming up on 6 years as well, or 6 years, I shouldn't say as well. So National Day Calendar is 5 years old. The Tech Ranch is 6 years old. We actually started that right after I came back from CES 6 years ago, and I didn't think it'd make it a month, quite frankly. I remember the first time I was on the air. I'd been interviewed a lot, so I was accustomed to be in front of a microphone. But as you know, when you're hosting a show, it's a whole different animal. And I have to tell you, I was visibly shaking the first couple of weeks. I just couldn't stop from shaking. It was just, you know, just knowing that there might be somebody out there listening to me just got in my head. You know, you just have to get past that. And it took me a while to do that. So.
Yeah, when I started this podcast, I actually started it in October 2016 as me just sharing information and from the book that I wrote, Designing Your Own Destiny, and I had 19 episodes. It was just me saying, okay, this is this personal growth technique. Let's talk about SMART goals. Let's talk about the wheel of balance, and things like that. Those are different shows that I did, but I was very inconsistent. And yes, I was like you. It's like, what am I going to say? But then I just put up a picture of who my ideal client could be, and I would just talk to that person. So that made it a little bit easier.
Sure.
When, like you said, when you're hosting a show, because I've been on a few other people's shows as well, when you're hosting a show, it's a bit different because now you want to make sure all the sounding is good. If you're going to be doing video, like this is also a video recording, you want to make sure the video is good as well. And and you're in North Dakota, I'm in Las Vegas, so we're doing this through the internet.
Yeah.
So which is kind of which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then all that stuff afterward. But I've noticed with myself, and I've said this a couple of times on the show, when I was doing my podcast, and I'm sure you may come across this every once in a while on your show, is what content am I going to come out with for next week? What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Right.
And then I realized by having guests on the show, my content is very little. It's the guest that brings in all the content. I just steer the conversation.
That's exactly right. And a lot of times it's difficult as somebody in your position to kind of get out of the way and let the person that you're interviewing do the talking, like what you're doing with me right now. I never get to talk like this on my own shows, so this is fantastic for me, of course.
Oh, and that's why I love having this, is because you've got your own unique experiences that you're bringing to the table. Most of the people that are listening to the show are people that are either entrepreneurs looking to scale their business, or people that are looking to start a business. And we're going to be going into some questions that I ask all of my guests that are on the show, and it's to help them actually say, hey, I could be in the same boat that you were in, and this is what the end result I could get from it, positive
Absolutely.
or negative, and that way you can steer your own business to the next level because of that.
Right.
That's why I do this.
Fantastic.
So, and also give you exposure to people that you may not know
Sure.
as well. So, so let's go ahead and dive into that a little bit. Usually I like to start off with asking people, what were some of your early successes? When you were just starting out with your talk show, or getting started with National Day Calendar, what were some of your early successes that you experienced?
Well, I guess
Besides 1,000 downloads in one day.
well, I mean, that in itself was a pretty big milestone, right? I mean, I would have never dreamed that it would certainly get to the size that it is today. So, um, but early on, just knowing that people were starting to follow, were starting to comment, were starting to participate, was exciting to me. I remember getting the first 100 people to follow us on Facebook. I mean, that was a big deal. Now if we don't have 100 people follow us in a day, I think something is wrong with something going on out there. So it's amazing your perspective on things as you grow. But a lot of little milestones like that. I really wasn't in it for monetization to start with. It was just a hobby, and so all of these things that happened around that were kind of unique experiences. And of course, as your following grows, it's interesting as you go through an airport and somebody recognizes you, and they recognize you because it's National Day Calendar, and you're like, well, that's interesting, because I expect that a little bit because of radio and some television that I do, but not because of National Day Calendar. And a unique story. So I'm in Mandan, North Dakota, which is where I live, right? And I'm at a coffee shop the other day, and somebody recognizes me, and they're like, "You're that calendar guy, right?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." And she's like, "Why are you in Mandan, North Dakota?" Well, it's because I live here. And she about freaked out when she found out that I was from this area. So it's funny when you develop a following, and people may not even know where you live, and the following is right in your own backyard. So pretty interesting.
I've had that experience a couple of times, but most of that was back when I was a teacher. Like, some people would come up to me, like, I was teaching at Florida State at that time doing some smaller classes, and then somebody comes and runs into me on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. This was a few years ago. I don't know who this person is, but they recognize me, or somebody because of my teaching, or because I used to do a lot of video for real estate, and whenever I would have another house that I was going to be marketing, I would stand in front of the camera and I would introduce the house, and then I'll put it out there. And then, I don't know who's seeing those videos, and just like you don't know who's going to your website, and getting recognized is like the oddest thing. Like, it's like a small world. How do you know me?
But what's interesting about that and is the fact that when you do things like that, you don't know who's going to be watching this stuff or who's going to be listening to this, right? So always know that content that you're creating now could be viewed 2, 3, 4, 6, 10 years from now, right? Mm-hmm. And so you always want to be the best person you can be when you're, actually you should always be that way anyway, but especially if you're creating content, try to be the best person that you can be doing this kind of stuff, because it is building your authority and building that brand that you have. And that's, in any business that you do, because it doesn't matter now if you're actually making franchise at McDonald's and you're involved in a video, you should do the best you can be with that, because you don't know who's going to see that video and go, I want that person to work for my company or whatever. So you get recruited right out of that space. You and I have this happen to us all the time, and people are always trying to recruit me for things, and you never know the opportunities that present themselves. And if, because we have social media now and ways to share that type of information, you just have to think about that. And these people who, and I don't mean to be critical of anybody here, I guess, because everybody has their own way of branding themselves, but things like language and this is about as casual as I ever get, is what you're seeing me here today. But you don't want to wear holy clothes unless this is your brand. Maybe you have a brand of clothing that has holes in them for whatever reason. Of course, you want to do that, but it's always important, I think, to do the best you can when you're doing these type of things, because and I can't reiterate this enough, you just don't know who's going to see that. It might be Bill Gates or somebody, then they're like, that person would work great for Microsoft. I want that person here instead of making fries in McDonald's. So you just never know. And
now, is your talk show, it's all talk, it's all audio, correct?
The talk show is all audio, but like I said, I also do a Tech Tuesday piece for television as well. Yeah.
Okay. So your face is getting out there, and people are seeing you that you don't know. So
yes, it is.
Well, because the reason I'm saying that is in this day and age, especially with social media like Facebook and Facebook Live and all of these other things, is that as you're building your business, and especially if you're starting off as a solopreneur, your face is part of your brand. I mean, yeah, you may have your logo, you may have your company motto, you may have that, but your face is still your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And people do want to relate to that person, so it's all about storytelling to me. So even when I'm on the air on television, I get like a 3-minute segment, but it's a live piece. And I really try to engage the person who's interviewing me or whatever. And we get into, real world experiences using that cell phone, or if we're talking about the eclipse, like we had a few months ago or whatever, you tell about those stories, and that engages people, and people remember that later on when they're watching that piece. So. Yeah.
An old sales manager or person that I followed, going by saying that, like, going along that line, would say, stories, what does it say? Facts tell, stories sell.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah.
So yeah, people are going to remember the story. Just like if you're watching a movie, you're not going to remember facts about the movie, but you'll remember the interaction between the characters. So.
Exactly.
Well, and then what are some of your current successes that you're going through right now? I mean, you're obviously, you've got calendars coming out, you've got other things going on. Well, what are some of your current successes that you've got going on?
Well, with National Day Calendar, we have, we're getting very close to launching our first app, so we're pretty excited about that. Wow. It's been a couple years in development, so hopefully it doesn't disappoint. You never know, though, I guess, but we're pretty excited about that. Talking Trails, we're moving into, which is another company I have or partner in, and that we use. Think of using technology for interpretive. Sites. So if you're, at like around here, we have the Custer House, which is where General Custer lived before he went to Montana to meet his demise, right in our own backyard here. And so if you went out there and visited that site, instead of reading this huge interpretive panel about what was going on, you can use the technology in your phone and use Talking Trail for that. So, but we're moving into augmented reality, AR, on that, and very, very excited about that. We think that will be amazing when you put your phone up, you're looking out into the field maybe, and there's nothing there, but when you put your phone up and look, you use the phone to look in there, all of a sudden Custer appears and starts telling a story. I mean, those are the things that we're very excited about. On the National Day Calendar side, we actually are going to be using augmented reality there as well. So even on our plain calendars, you'll be able to put your phone up to those, and some of the national days are going to come to life. So if it's on National Popcorn Day, I mean, you might actually see popcorn popping through there and the story about it and things like that. So we're really excited about those type of enhancements moving forward in 2018.
Okay, and that's kind of cool because I saw about a year, maybe 2 years ago, and I think the app was called like Print to Life, and all it was a picture of a red chair in the field, and then and they had like a little code, like a QR code on it. And if you put your phone over that, this is still a printed picture. You put your phone over, because that little code, you'll pick it up, and then all of a sudden there's a woman sitting in the chair, 3D, and she's sitting there and she's talking to you, going through the thing. Then she stands up and she walks around the chair.
Yep.
Like, wow, that was 2 years ago on
right.
that kind of technology.
And that technology, it's very similar to what you're talking about. This is very cool that you brought that up. The only difference is that you don't need the QR code in there anymore. So it it just recognizes the chair. So think of the chair as a QR code, and then that triggers the software to say, "Oh, that's the QR code. Now the lady appears to be sitting in the chair." That's exactly how it works. So pretty amazing technology. Yep.
Awesome. I would love to see, because that makes me think of things like Star Trek or whatever, where you can have your tricorder, your cell phone, and you just look at something, and then it goes through the whole life of, whatever it is that you're doing. It could be Custard's house, it could be JFK's house, it could be whatever it is at that certain location.
I think we're on a whole nother level of technology because of augmented reality. I mean, the ability to fix things. I mean, if your car breaks down, you can take your phone, go right over the top of it, and that particular manufacturer may actually show you how to take apart, right in your phone, have that instruction, as opposed to, taking it down to the mechanic, whatever. And, and of course, we're not trying to put mechanics out of business, but if you're broke down at 2 a.m. and there's nobody to help you fix this thing, at least you have a secondary tool that will help you take you through that process. So
yeah, because right now all you can do is watch YouTube videos.
That's pretty much all there is to it, right? Yes, which is good too, right?
Yeah, I've done car repairs on my car with YouTube videos.
I'm putting a studio together right now on YouTube videos, so absolutely.
Okay, so we'll talk about your successes. When you were first getting started, because I'm going to flip the coin a little bit here. What were some of your early fears when that you were getting started? How did you overcome those fears, or how did you get past those fears?
Well, first of all, I have a fear of public speaking. That's still probably my biggest fear. So,
and of course, you got a radio show.
That's a big deal. And of course, now because of the radio show and a lot of things, I get asked to talk a lot in public. But it's a matter of just putting your mind to it and saying, hey, this is something I can overcome and do. And I still have to say I haven't totally overcome that, but I'm a lot more comfortable in front of people now. Monetization is another thing. I mean, that's, I think, a lot of fear for a lot of businesses is how do you move forward when you don't have money, and that's always a challenge. And it's just one of those things that, you just got to keep plugging away, and if you're looking for partners, for example, that might have money or venture capitalists or whatever, a lot of times they're investing in you. They're not investing in your idea as much. They want to see that passion in you. They want to see that commitment in you. And that's the thing. I mean, if you're starting off in business, there has to be a commitment on your side, and you can't expect that somebody's going to give you 100% funding for 10% of the company if you're not going to, have any sacrifice in the game until somebody throws all this money in. So, and I don't know what that looks like for a lot of people, but, a lot of people, if they're starting off, they don't know if they should quit their job or not. My advice would be probably to quit your job. If you're going to make a full-time go at this, but I understand the security part of that too. And, you have, if you got a family to feed and all that other stuff, you just can't go off and do that. So, but you have to have commitment. And probably the other thing is so that was a fear of mine, of course, is how do I monetize this? How do I feed my family? I mean, all this stuff. And it gets scary sometimes. It really does. I mean, there are times you have to choose between, how am I making payroll this week, and you're next thing you know, you're taking out a second mortgage on your house just to do that, and those things are scary when you're doing that type of thing, but you have to believe. And I guess I found that if you're consistent and you stick around long enough, people start to believe with you. So, you don't want to be jumping around from one thing to another, looking like the grass is always, green on the other side. Because a lot of times it is. But if you're consistent and you have some stickiness to you, people start to believe in you after a while. So.
Okay, well, good. Because I deal with a lot of clients myself, as a business coach, and a lot of times it is the monetization. It's that whole part of how am I going to survive? How am I going to pay my mortgage or rent or, whatever it is? And, it can be daunting sometimes, but
It can
yeah.
be it can be very daunting. The lesson that you can take from this, though, is that we live in a different world now. I mean, even from 3 to 5 years ago, when it comes to business startups, I mean, you can bootstrap a lot of things nowadays that you could never do before, and there are funding mechanisms like crowdfunding that are out there, and you don't have to go after the traditional bank model anymore. You can pre-sell product, through Indiegogo or Kickstarter and things like that to kind of fund your way through this, so you don't have to go hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into debt just to kick your business off. So, and the thing about bootstrapping to me, a company, is that it does show that you're committed to it, and you're willing to do what it takes to get your company off the ground. So, I sometimes find, and I've been guilty of this myself, actually, if you have too much money to start, you're comfortable. And the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, in a startup is be comfortable. You need to be uncomfortable. You need to not know how you're going to make payroll or whatever next month, because guess what you do? You get out and hustle. And but in a sales situation, if you're selling stuff, you don't want to have that fear come across to the other person, because you want to make sure that the person that you're selling to is comfortable with you, and they need to know that that product or service you're delivering is going to get delivered. So you can't use that as a sales technique, but
No.
you need to have that internally, that you need to know that you don't really know where this is going to come from, and you get creative and you hustle. You don't mind maybe working a couple extra hours a day or whatever, because that's what you need to do to get it done. So
Okay. And I feel the same way, because there's times when I was, before the real estate crash, and I was dealing with all of these different real estate agents in different cities and stuff. I was after the agents that were hungry, and that they were wanting to go and get the work done. Because
absolutely.
the ones that were complacent or comfortable, as you were saying, are, they're not going to put that extra hour in or that extra effort in.
That's exactly right. So, and I think that's a lot of times when you're looking for money, venture capitalists or even your family, I mean, or whoever that you're borrowing money from or whatever, they want to see that. They really do want to see that you're hungry, as you were saying, that you're uncomfortable, because they want to know that you're getting out and getting this done. So.
Okay. Well, with that being said, what were some of your early challenges then when you were first getting started? Or some of your setbacks? And I don't like to use the word failures, because I don't believe in the word.
I agree with that.
And because to me, it's always feedback. It's your interpretation of the situation. So what were let's call it perceived challenges or perceived setbacks that you had?
So, some of the stuff that I've dealt with, I've got 2 different companies that I've been trying to develop apps for the last couple of years. And the app development has been a huge, huge challenge for me. I've gone through like 4 different teams trying to get these couple of apps done. So, I think the lesson that I've learned from that, and again, and what I always find interesting is that there are a lot of life lessons around, but when you lose money on them, you tend to remember those, right? So, what I've learned is that relationships are probably the most important thing. So I take time to understand the people that I'm going to be working with now, and I know it drives the people I'm going to potentially be working with crazy, because I just show up. So,
Okay.
but I've learned to do this because I need to have a level of trust with the people I'm about ready to work with, because I'm going to spend a lot of money with these people now, and I need to have an understanding about their business. I've done some app development with companies out of the country, and I don't know who these people are, and they have nothing beholding back to me. I mean, I can send them money, and they sometimes could care less about it. They're not performing the job or whatever. They know that I'm not going to fly to Turkey to see them. So as a result, there's no relationship building or whatever. So, so the early challenges for me were that I was very trusting of people, and I still am. I mean, I really am, but I've taken that lesson, and as I move forward, I just take my time with people now, and I get to understand them and know them before I do business with them. So, but it's difficult when you're in a startup situation, because a lot of times you don't have that kind of time. So hopefully, as you're in that startup mode, you're thinking about, who those people are, and maybe you have relationships with people already that you trust and that you can move forward, in that mode with them.
Okay. And that's good to know. That's really good to know, because I also do some work with VAs and stuff like that that are overseas. That's a virtual assistant, for those of you that
Yes.
know what that is.
Yep.
And there's a trust factor that's involved there that you have to develop over time. And sometimes when I'm dealing with them, I'm giving them very critical information. I mean, not like bank account information, but there were times a few years ago when I was doing real estate, I'm giving them my GoDaddy password.
Right.
So they have full access to my website.
I know.
And they can hit delete, change password.
Yep.
So,
take over your site, do whatever they wanted to with you. Yeah. So you're right. I mean, it's all about trust. So those are challenges. I don't think it's a great personal trait to not trust people. Initially, I think you should always give people the benefit of the doubt. But I also think you should proceed with due diligence with a lot of people and just get to know them a little bit beforehand. Some of those issues. I've never had a VA. I've thought about this, and you and I are going to talk about this off air, by the way, because I'd love to get your feedback on this. But it's all a matter of taking those lessons, and those challenges and moving forward. So everybody's going to have them. The other challenges you're going to have, at least I had, and I think most people do, is friends and family. A lot of them, of course, are like, they think you're crazy. Absolutely think you're crazy, that you're moving forward with this. I mean, I couldn't have had a more difficult startup than what I did with National Day Calendar. I mean, everybody in my circle is like, why aren't you out having fun with us this weekend? Or because I was doing this nights and weekends, right? And and you deal with that, and you lose some family time. I'm just using in my situation, of course. And then, but because I believed in it so much and I understood where this could go, now of course everybody's on the train. Everybody's on the train because now it's a big time deal. But you have to believe in yourself enough, and you have to give yourself some time for family time and other things too, because those people are important to you too. But you have to let them understand that this is my passion. This is, I think that this is something that I want to do. And you have to kind of have stickiness there as well. You have to believe in yourself enough to get through the naysayers that are in your family and circle of friends.
Okay. And because I am a big proponent of having a support system, and you have to be careful who you hang around, but your wife or your husband or your kids, you cannot say, I don't want to hang out with them anymore, because then that is your family.
That's correct.
However, and it's kind of funny, because I look at some people in the past that that have made it big, regardless of what they're doing. I mean, I've seen like one time I saw a Johnny Depp quote, and back when he was doing, was it 21 Jump Street, when he was just getting started on episodic television, people were naysaying that, how are you going to make it as an actor? And then now he's a top known actor, and now people say, well, I knew him when he was growing up, I was there for him. Like, no, you weren't. So okay, so yeah, because when you're starting a business, and let's say you're still working your day job, that is going to you're going to have to sacrifice personal time for that. I mean, it's like you were saying, doing all the research for National Day Calendar, that takes time. Me doing this show, this podcast, I mean, the time to record, the time to edit, the time to send it out to public media. I mean, that takes time. So and that time has to come from somewhere. So even if you hire it out, it's still going to require some time.
Absolutely.
So as we're getting kind of closer to the end, I'd like to ask you, what were any lessons or upbeat moments that you've gone through, or any tidbits of information that you would put out there for a budding entrepreneur, somebody that's either getting started or someone that's trying to scale their business?
Probably the best advice I can give in that realm is consistency. You need to be consistent with what you do. And this is a lesson hard learned for myself too. But because of National Day Calendar, I didn't have any choice, right? I mean, tomorrow's a new day. I had to get that stuff out. So I had to be consistent in my content. And as that happened, I started to understand that consistency is key for following, for customer base, all of this stuff. So, and that doesn't matter, if you're in a restaurant business, and that apple pie you make is different today than what it was yesterday. and that customer that came in that had that pie yesterday is back because it was so amazing yesterday, and now today it's different. Doesn't work. Why do you think McDonald's is so big? Is because their consistency. I mean, outside, well, and it's consistency across the board. It's consistency with pricing. It's consistency with their quality. I can go into McDonald's in the French Quarter and have the same Big Mac that I'm going to have in Mandan, North Dakota, or in Summerlin, Nevada. So, I mean, all of these, the consistency is the key here, because people have an expectation of that. Whether you're blogging, whether you're selling real estate, it doesn't matter. Consistency is key. And if you're going to launch into another endeavor around what you're doing, let's say you're a real estate agent, you know, since you've been talking a lot about real estate, and you want to get into blogging about, how to keep up your home, because you're trying to build your authority a little bit, right? If you just blog 2 times in a week, and then you're like, I'm going to take the next couple of months off and throw something back out there again, you will never, ever develop a following around that. You need to do it. You need to do consistency. Now, consistency might only mean once a month, but at least you're throwing something out there once a month, and it's got value to it. If you don't do it that way, if you just do it willy-nilly, it's fruitless. You know, so consistency to me is a big deal. And I think that's probably my hardest lesson that I've learned.
And I am a full believer on that, because when I did my season 1 of this show, at the first few weeks, I was very consistent. And then because it was always new content, I became inconsistent. Then I would launch an episode every Wednesday. The next Wednesday I got one, and the next Wednesday I got one. And normally what I was doing, and then I'm assuming this is kind of how you do your talk show, and how I'm doing my podcast a little bit different, is if you're doing a live talk show, you have a scheduled time.
Exactly.
Wednesday
right.
at 4 a.m. or at 4 p.m. Central Time is my time, whatever time your show is.
Right.
When you're doing a blog or doing a podcast that is not real time, that's not live, then yes, you definitely need to be consistent, even more so. For an example, I'm recording this show, and I'm recording over this week probably 12 shows. Well, I'm going to be releasing them on every twice a week now for the next few months, on a Monday and a Thursday. So I'm consistently out there, but I got the material done beforehand. So my suggestion, if you're doing a blog, and it's a Wednesday, and you feel you're feeling creative and you're writing that blog, write 3 blogs, write 4 blogs.
Absolutely agree with that, because we all have technology out there. You can plug that stuff into the system, you can schedule it out, and you can schedule it and forget it, type of deal, and it'll just do it automatically. Until you're absolutely right. If you can, if Wednesday afternoons are the time you have to write, then write a whole week's worth of work or a whole month's worth of work on that Wednesday afternoon. Just get right to it. I agree with that. That's great philosophy to follow.
Now, were you doing it that way when you're doing your first year or 2 years, the National Day calendar? Were you saying, okay, today is May 25th, I'm going to get 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 and try to get it done all in one day? Or are you always putting yourself under the gun? I got to get tomorrow's done.
Well, because of the work involved in that, I never really had the opportunity to do that. Okay. I was always under the gun because of that, because there was just so much research that went on with that, and I didn't expect it to be that way. I thought exactly what you're talking about, that be able to crank out 3 or 4 or 5 at a time and do that, and it never, because it just took so much time every day to make that happen. So if I were to do that over, I would probably have 3 or 4 months worth of stuff in the can first, launch the website. In hindsight, this is great, but at the same time, you talk about bootstrapping a company. Well, I kind of bootstrapped this website, right? And I didn't know any better, and I just did it as it got thrown at me, and I guess it turned out okay. But it did force me to be consistent, even though that's not exactly the plan at the beginning of this. So,
and was it stressful? Always coming up with that every day?
Yes, it was. The pressure between family and friends, and the pressure of content getting out there because the media wanted to have it. There was a little stress involved. Yeah.
Okay. So if you can have a little bit in the can, as we call it, stuff that's up, that's ahead. Obviously, doing a talk show, you can't do that, but you can kind of like with me is you're scheduling. You have an idea who's going to be on your show for the next month. So if you have a weekly show, so okay, the first, second, third, and fourth Wednesday of the month we already have scheduled, and we're starting to figuring out who's going to be on the next month episode.
Right.
So if you at least you're getting a little bit of stuff together, so you're not always under the gun. I mean, watch the Tonight Show or anything like that. And tomorrow we're going to have, they already know who's going to be the guest. And they already know who's going to be the guest probably for the next week. So.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
So as we're wrapping up here, and Marlo, how can people find you? How, obviously they can go to nationaldaycalendar.com to find your National Day Calendar. What about your talk show? How can they find you about your talk show?
So there's a couple places. You can go to facebook.com/Guru of Geek and find me there. On Twitter, also at Guru of Geek, just like it sounds, GURUOFGEEK, Guru of Geek. So you can find me at any of those places. And if you want to Twitter out or whatever, that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, is through Twitter. So
just put the @ symbol, Guru of Geek. They'll find you.
Exactly.
Okay. And so that's how you can get on your talk show. Now, I know we didn't talk about this because you do have 2 apps coming out here very, very soon that you say are startup apps. One is called Package, and the other one is called Talking Trail, which you mentioned a little bit about the cell phone things.
Right.
Could you tell us a little bit about Package in the last couple of minutes that we have here?
Sure. So Package is basically a way to have packages delivered in a style similar to like Lyft and Uber. So, but it takes it to a little bit of a different level. So it's not packages delivered to your home. It's moving from town to town. And I'm sure you've probably had this happen to yourself. You're driving someplace and somebody says, "Hey, can you take this along with you and drop it off at whatever place?" This happened a lot in the past. Anyway, maybe not as much anymore. But anyway, that's basically what this premise is built on. So we partner with convenience stores. So if I'm shipping something to you, Kevin, and generally think about it in like a 400-mile radius, this is probably not something that's going to go, from sea to signing she, so to speak, in the United States here, from one ocean or one coast to the other, but within your 400-mile radius. So I'll drop it off at a convenience store. And it will go to, so that's in Mandan, North Dakota. Maybe I'm sending it to Fargo, North Dakota. So an authorized driver, just like Lyft and Uber, will pick it up because they're already going to Fargo already because they have business or they're going there for the weekend or whatever. They'll pick up, and the app will say, "Hey, there's 15 packages to pick up." So when they're about ready to go, they click claim. They go down, they pick up those packages. They take them over to Fargo. They drop them off at the convenience store over there. And then you get a text and an email stating that you have a package sitting there at the Cenix or the 7-Eleven or whatever. And then when you have time, you can swing by and pick it up. And that's how it works. It runs $10 to send a package. And the driver gets some of that. The stores get a little bit of that. And of course, we keep a little bit for ourselves.
Well, of course.
Well, we have to, of course. So, but that's how it works. So.
Okay, because I've done that once before where I was attending an event and I needed to bring a backpack with me, like a camping backpack.
Okay.
And, that's going to be very costly to take on an airplane. But there was one guy that had a pickup truck and he was going to go staff the event. And there's like 6 or 8 guys here in Las Vegas that threw our backpacks in the back of his truck and caught it on the plane. And when we got there, our backpacks were sitting right there at the event. So
that's pretty cool.
And having the backpack go in the reverse direction.
That's a great example of exactly what we're going to be doing with this. So we're hoping that we'll be, launching sometimes in the middle of 2018, and so we're looking for Package, Pakkage.
And that's going to be the name of the app. So Pakkage. And today we have Marlo Anderson, which is, as we've mentioned quite a few times, National Day Calendar, and he has a talk show called the Tech Ranch. And you can find him online for more information about this his calendar stuff at nationaldaycalendar.com. And you can also find him on Facebook or Twitter by going through Guru of Geek. So facebook.com/Guru of Geek, or Twitter at Guru of Geek there, or the @ symbol Guru of Geek. So Marlo, I want to say thank you for being on the show today. It's been a great pleasure. We are hitting right at the hour mark, so we're right on time here. So thank you very much.
Right.
Any last words before we go?
Just stay true to your cause, I guess. Be consistent, and most of all, have fun. If you're going to start a company or whatever, the one thing you want to do is make sure you're having a good time doing it. So make sure that that's part of your game.
Have fun. Remember to always have fun, because why are you working so hard if you're not enjoying the fruits of your labor, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Marlo. And I'm sure the whole audience has learned a lot from you today. And I do want to say I really appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit kevinadunlap.com, facebook.com/kevinadunlap.author, and on Twitter @Kevin A. Dunlap. We'll catch you on the next episode of Life's Little Lessons.